Well, we're on a mission for a few stupid questions here on the Inside Line F1 podcast. We were firstly wondering who would play Yuvraj Singh in his biopic, which I'm not sure this is the right platform to answer. But I do have a question for you nonetheless, Kunal. If and when you go to the Dutch GP, where would you like to park your bike? Would it be in Portimao, in Spa, in Baku, or where else?
Wow. I, I see we are playing to the title of the podcast, Tour de Zandvoort, to watch Max Verstappen because 40,000 bicycles,
Yeah.
literally, that are going to find parking there. I think that's beautiful. Since you asked the question, I will park at Nico Hulkenberg's hometown, which is is about 90 miles or less than 150 kilometers away from this race circuit. I will try and see if he still considers me as a bit of a friend, and he'll say, just park it in my garage.
But that's where you'll park your Tesla, won't you? You will take your Tesla and then take your bicycle to the circuit of Silverstone. They go by the name of Monza, Suzuka, Miami, Monaco. Where would you like to park your bike?
Ah, I would like to do it by the beach, but I know it's going to be super, super packed this weekend, and there's going to be lots of people attending the Dutch Grand Prix. I'm not going to find any place amongst all of those people to park my bike anywhere. So I'm going to stay at home and enjoy this. No, not at
We are
home.
not staying at home.
Not at
Wait,
home.
no,
We're
no,
not at
we
home.
are not staying at
We are
home
not
this
at
weekend,
home.
aren't we?
We are not at home for a change.
Are
You're
you
going
going to
to a
give it away or?
racetrack. Yeah, of course. You guys better give it away. It's a feather in your caps.
Go ahead, Samuel. Go ahead.
Yup. So this is, folks, the Inside Line F1 podcast where we really do pride ourselves on being able to be at the racetracks whenever there is motorsport going on. And Sundaram and myself will be there for the Indian Racing League this weekend and for the entire season as well at the Madras International Circuit this particular Saturday and Sunday. So if you're around Chennai, join us, come to the circuit. It'll be great to see you come over and say hello. Or if you can't come to the circuit physically, I suppose we will be on your TV screens at home or even your phone. Star Sports and Fan Code are where you will see the broadcast of the Indian Racing League and Indian F4 Championship, and the two of us are going to be on there. So that's a little bit of a fun thing to have. But that's in India. In the Netherlands, Kunal, the racing is even crazier because if I remember correctly, you work for Viaplay, who's also the official broadcaster in the Netherlands.
That's
Are you
correct.
getting to go there to see all the madness this weekend, or are you working from
I
the studio this time?
I could have. I'll be on the studio, and everyone watching the feed in Norway will get to see me on camera. I'm going to be the
Hey.
TV expert, so I will get to break down the race and the strategy in real time. And strategy is going to be key this weekend. Short pit lane, 60 kilometer per hour pit lane speed limit, three of the hardest compounds. We don't know what the weather's going to do, like it always happens. But it's exciting. All three of us on camera at a motorsport event. Could it be better than that?
Yeah, I think there's only one thing that tops it. It's doing a live event with all of our people, with all of us together in Mumbai, which is, again, you have to go back to the home crowd, right? If a Man United player says they'll play anywhere apart from Old Trafford, they're not a Man United player. So we're going to be missing home this weekend. And it's some weekend to leave home for Sundaram because heading into this one, right, we're in such a crazy scenario where we have four different race winners in the last four Grand Prix. We enter the second half of the season with 13 different race winners on the grid. And guess what? Red Bull have not lost four races in a row since Sakhir 2020. That's 82 races ago. This is the state of Formula One today.
And I'm very happy that we are finally at that stage. And it really is a rarity that we see four different teams and as many as seven different drivers that can contend for a win. And I'm genuinely very happy where Formula One is at this point. But I would not want to be at home for this race. Actually, I don't want to be all alone watching this on my screens. I would prefer to watch this with 100 people, everyone cheering on Lando Norris overtake or a Verstappen overtake. This is one of those weekends, and it's probably going to be one of those seasons where the second half is going to be that much more exciting. We have so many drivers in contention. I don't know who's going to be in contention this weekend, but I genuinely feel Red Bull can stamp their authority and have things go back their way
Hmm.
this weekend, because it's Max Verstappen's home race, the Dutch Grand Prix after all, and it's the start of the second half of the season. So this is the ideal place to tell everyone and remind everyone that, hey, you've you might have forgotten us, but we're still back here and we're still going to extend a championship lead. So I'm putting a prediction right there straight away. I think Max Verstappen is going to be winning this weekend.
Oh.
Wow. Before we even get to the
Yes.
predictions,
Yes.
Sundaram has laid it out there, laid it bare out there. It's a you know I sort of agree with one thing, which is the races in the summer break before the summer break. Sorry, the races before the summer break came very fast. We had a triple header, one weekend break, and then a double header, and momentum. We've always spoken of momentum, and if you carry that momentum or you don't carry a momentum, it sort of you may not find your way through when races come to you so thick and fast. This has been a forced break on all of us, although we were recording. My feeling is that all teams would have gotten a chance to review their packages and the data even more so, run simulations as they would. Uh, could Red Bull have found what is lacking or has been lacking for them, and could this time off, could this break have just sort of paused their downfall, if that's the word, or
So
slowing down?
the break. Red Bull have been in the news for their breaks recently.
I was waiting for you to play that pun. But yes, they have been in the news for a break. The FIA has seemingly plugged a loophole on using asymmetrical braking uh, on Formula One cars, which I think is very interesting. It just so happens that Peter Winsor, who's been on our show several times, and Craig Scarborough, two leading figures in the world of technical regulations and technical Formula One or F1 tech, have explained it very well on what they think it is. And of course, everything is linking back to yes, so Red Bull is the one team that has surprisingly lost a lot of pace. So were they illegal? Were they running a car which was exploiting a loophole, etc.? Firstly, if you exploit a loophole, it's not illegal. Secondly, uh, the FIA actively works on plugging loopholes. It is a technical sport. There are regulations. The FIA has fewer people policing these regulations versus the teams actually having some of the masterminds who are supposed to find their way through the regulations, whether it's a loophole or not. Right? That's where I stand. Uh, what is this asymmetrical braking that happens? So when we drive a road car and you press the brakes, the braking pressure on all four wheels is the same. It could be that the front wheels are braking more together than the rear wheels, or the other way around when it comes to brake bias setting. So when you see a qualifying lap and you see your driver, taking the hand of the steering wheel and adjusting something or turning up a knob, depending on what car it is, what steering wheel offers brake bias settings and where, what typically they do is they adjust brake bias settings. So if you're entering into a slower corner, maybe you need to slow down a little more. So you take a little bit more front brake bias. For example, if you're going into a high speed corner, maybe you take a little bit of rear brake bias, and depending on what drivers want. And they have these presets for corners, especially on qualifying laps. Now, for Red Bull, what people are saying is that this asymmetrical braking bias, what it also does is it allows you to change brake bias on different wheels, on the left side and the right side of the wheel. That's what it does. And Craig Scarper has drawn a very simple, very lovely engineering drawing of what this is. Go and check his Twitter. And what it means in reality, of course, if I can just simplify it, is when you are braking and turning into, say, a right hander, the inside wheel, which is the right hand side of the wheels, travel a lesser distance than the left hand side of the wheel. Okay.
Yep.
And hence the speed of both these wheels are also different. So could you brake on each wheel differently, which allows them to keep different speeds through the corner? In theory, this is what it largely stands at. Formula One is a technical sport. It is an engineering innovation, engineering challenge. And this is what teams have come up with. Like, people use this this is not new tech. It's tech used in other series of racing. It's used off-roading as well. It's just been employed in Formula One. And, depending on which side you turn, etc., these things happen. So the FI has plugged this loophole from the summer break. Okay. And now everyone's just trying to extrapolate which team was exploiting this loophole.
If it is indeed Red Bull Sundaram, how ironic is it that it's Red Bull now being not allowed to use a technology that was sort of originally pioneered by McLaren with their third brake pedal back in 1997. So you've got to harness the abilities of the team who's chasing you to beat them. But that seems to be tough because wherever we've gone to proper Red Bull racing territory this year, be it Silverstone, be it Austria, be it, I think another one of those races, if I'm not mistaken. I had it in my notes. Let me check for a second. There have been three races over there: Silverstone,
Hungary, no?
Austria, and Hungary as well, yes, and also Belgium. Proper Red Bull racing circuits. Guess who's won? In three out of four of those races, it's been Mercedes who has been dominating at Red Bull territory, not McLaren, as we thought would be the case. It's a fun little thing that's happening now that Mercedes are the ones picking up the scraps where McLaren should be the ones actually doing it.
Exactly. And I don't know if I should say this, but one of those wins was gifted to George Russell in Austria because Verstappen and Norris collided. But either way, you're right. In terms of numbers, Mercedes does have that sort of form, and it's going to be very interesting in that sense. You can feel that Mercedes has kind of picked up the scraps on certain occasions, and Mercedes has dropped a lot of points as well, and that's going to be crucial for the constructors championship as well, because McLaren have, how many points are they? 49 points away, 42 points. Actually, what
42,
can
yeah.
actually happen this weekend is, if McLaren get it absolutely right this weekend, they could top the constructors standings after the Zandvoort round. And for that to happen, a lot has to go wrong at Red Bull's in Red Bull's side. Sergio Perez finishes outside the points once again. Max Verstappen has a DNF of some sort in front of his home crowd, but in a very long time, once again, there's the opportunity for a different team to lead the constructors championship. So that's going to be very, very interesting. But like I said before, I don't see that happening this weekend. It's going to be put off for another weekend.
It's a mathematical possibility,
Yes.
right? And till the checkered flag doesn't drop, the mathematical possibility is there. And here's the fun part: mathematical possibility, McLaren getting 1-2, scoring the fastest lap of the race, right? That's the tougher part to happen, even if the two Red Bulls don't score, for example. So the side that you choose for the mathematical possibility is still biased towards Red Bull, just because McLaren still hasn't executed 100%. But could this be that one race again, that break, giving them a chance to regroup, to revisit their actions, revisit their communications, etc.? And teams do that time and time again, right? They sharpen their tools, the decision making, their models. Can McLaren come back? They know that this constructors championship is theirs to claim. They know that they are up against a weaker Red Bull with a package that's suddenly become tough to understand, with Perez, who's struggling even more so than Max Verstappen. And I think the second half of the year is going to be extremely, extremely exciting. Like I tweeted, it's going to be a blockbuster. Literally 10 races as we've got. I'm pretty sure by the time we get to Abu Dhabi, we'd all be wishing, saying, we should have had 5 more races, just to take us through till the start of 2024 as well, 2025.
No, but
Careful
that's
what you
an
ask for.
it's an interesting point that you say the next 10 races, because if you look at the next 4 races in specific, these are races where either Red Bull or Ferrari have done well. So take Zandvoort,
Mm.
take Monza, there's Baku, sorry, there's Singapore, and then there's Baku, or the other way around. But whatever it is, these four are the tracks where Red Bull have dominated, have done well. Ferrari have also done well around Singapore. So it's going to be interesting if McLaren can kind of topple them in terms of overall race pace and form, execution over these next 4 races before we head into the Americas and the Middle East once again. So the next 4 races I think are going to be very, very crucial. But even in that sense, we've had the mid-season break. It's been 4 weeks, but teams have been working only for 2 weeks. It's been an
Yeah.
enforced shutdown. So everyone's been off for a 2-week break. So it feels more or less just like any other weekend that's separated by a fortnight. But we have 4 weeks between Singapore and the US Grand Prix a month later. And That's also going to
We
be interesting. There's no forced shutdown. Then teams can
Hmm.
actually work on their cars in those 4 weeks.
we
But
should
will
have a
they?
special content plan. We should probably get a couple of guests who
Yes.
break the internet.
Not yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet. We
Not
won't. We
yet.
won't tell it yet. I think the taste is sweeter when you wait for it, right? So we'll
Yeah.
we'll make the people wait, and trust me, it will be worth it. But ringing on, just carrying on this whole debate about what the next half of the season holds, I can't help but think about 2009 because we were in a similar situation over there, where there was one team who had absolutely aced the regulations, but then eventually fell off because they couldn't quite develop their car the way they wanted to. Maybe they reached a ceiling. Maybe there just wasn't enough investment with Braun. Again, it's a bit of a tale that's up in the air, so we'll never know. But with Red Bull, we can clearly tell that they're reaching the limit of understanding their car in terms of all the comments that have come around from people within the team. But here's a fun statistic. When Braun GP were around in 2009, they won 6 out of the 10 races before the summer break. After that, they only won 2 out of 7. So far, Red Bull have actually statistically done worse than them. They've only won half the races, only. They've only won 7 out of 14 of the races in the season so far. And just because my greatest friend, the greatest predictor in the Formula One paddock, is going to be back this weekend in the paddock, hopefully, we should channel him back again. I see no reason why Red Bull can't win the next 10 races. And I hope this comment is going to work out exactly like Mattia Binotto's comment on Ferrari in 2022, which is exactly what he said. I see no reason why we can't win the next 10 races after the summer break. And they proceeded to win none. So,
Beautiful
again,
plug.
I just want
Beautiful plug.
drama.
We're waiting to see Matteo Binotto back at a racetrack after so many years. He was probably on gardening leave, I'm pretty sure. I'd love to get pictures of his garden, even if it's Google Images pictures that are there. But no, in all seriousness, he took over the reins of the Audi F1 team 1st of August. I presume he'll be at the race. It'll be his first race in Sauber, Audi, stake, fin, whatever colors that they come, the fluorescent green colors, and his media interaction as well. So he may not be the team representative, but so by that he may not be in the team press conferences officially, but he will have some media interactions. But why don't we just go back to Zandvoort and what we've called this episode Tour de Zandvoort, because this race, firstly the circuit, very old school. Two words we'll hear all through the weekend is old
Yeah.
school circuit, and we love these old school circuits. Like we've had a Spa, what's coming next weekend in Monza, and the other thing we're going to hear is margin for error because of these big, huge, wide, maybe I can call them fat F1 cars going fast around a narrow circuit, right? And a circuit with several high, medium, and slow speed corners with 2 long DRS zones as well. So, always exciting to see how these cars tackle different corner ranges. But all in all, I think it's a very fitting circuit to celebrate an old school driver like Max Verstappen because let's be honest, guys. The only reason the Dutch Grand Prix exists is for Max Verstappen to celebrate Max Verstappen, right? F1 came back ever since the Max Verstappen legend grew, or rather, the Dutch Grand Prix came back after the Max Verstappen legend grew in Formula One. So much so that in 2020, when F1 was deciding to have races without the fans, Sunfoot said, no, wait a minute. We can't do races without fans. We need the fans here. We will delay, we will defer our return to Formula One by a year because we need the fans, because we need the fans to celebrate Max Verstappen. And for once, the Orange Army, which literally travels either to Austria or to Belgium or to different parts of Europe to watch Max Verstappen, will now get to watch Max Verstappen at home this weekend. And if Sundaram's prediction comes true, it's going to be a bumper for the Orange Army fans turning up in the thousands, hundreds of thousands on cycles to watch Max
On
Verstappen.
cycles, man.
I always believe that when you drive on your home turf, you often tend to get at least a couple of tenths more. And in Max Verstappen's case, it's probably going to be half a second in itself in qualifying. So you have an arena filled with orange clad fans. I'm sure he's gonna eke out half a second in qualifying. And like you said, it's an old school circuit, so overtaking is very difficult. It's a narrow track. We have two banked corners, which is a rarity. But that puts a lot of stress to the through the tires as well. So I think Max Verstappen is going to put it on pole and keep the lead until the end of the race. But another reason to link it to an old circuit or a classic circuit is, if you look at the leaderboards of all the other tracks this season, you would often see Hamilton leading the charts, or Verstappen, or a Michael Schumacher. Do you know who's leading the leaderboard at Zandvoort in terms of race victories? It's one of my all time favorite drivers. Take a guess.
Zandvoort race victories.
Jim Clark.
Clark?
Jim Clark. Jim Clark,
Really?
4 victories. And if Max Verstappen wins this time, he's going to equal Jim Clark's record at Zandvoort.
Yeah,
I would
and
love
Max is
Jim. I would actually
yeah.
love Jim to hold on to that. Actually, now maybe I should change my prediction, but okay.
But
But
isn't it? Go
Max has
ahead, go
had
ahead.
3 poles, 3 wins, so he's had a
Exactly.
100% record. It's like that Sebastian Vettel record at the Indian Grand Prix. And I
Nicely
think
done.
Lewis Hamilton has never won in Zandvoort, right? And I think the other 2 races are Miami and Las Vegas as well, because they've been introduced since whatever. He's not had a winning car or whatever you call it. So very exciting to see how all that is going to be. And the Orange Army. I don't know if they cheer if an orange car beats their orange flavored driver, because that could also be, my feeling is McLaren is only going to come stronger. They've had 10 podiums. They know what they've missed out on. And McLaren versus Max Verstappen is going to be the story this weekend.
It only depends on how many beers the Dutch are down to see if they support the orange car or the orange driver. It's just all on that. But it won't take you beers for you to enjoy Max. Because Sundaram, 2021, Verstappen took pole here in the midst of a competitive battle against Lewis Hamilton with a faulty DRS. That's how good he is at this place. It's a force to reckon with.
He is a force to reckon with, and like I said, drivers tend to do better around around the home tracks. Zhou Guan Yu finished P14 at the Chinese Grand Prix, whereas in other tracks he's been performing even worse. So that's what I feel. This weekend is going to be incredible. I think Lance Stroll also did exceptionally well at the Canadian Grand Prix, so that does make a difference. So it is what it's going to be this weekend as well.
Wait, standing ovation, guys. I'm still holding on to my point. Naren should have got it in India. Joe got it in China. We need one for Max. It's if we're just doing the honors for everyone, right? We might as well.
Actually, that's a good point. I think Max Verstappen hasn't got that standing ovation for all that he's done
Yeah.
by the Dutch fans, as even Joe Guan Yu got in China. That emotional, attention, that high saying, "Stop everything and just look at me," and I look at you and clap and whatever. But I like what you brought out about 21, because they had that DRS issue and he still managed to grab pole position. And Max, of course, had pole position at Spa with a half a second margin. And pole margins are something I love to track, because 2023 Max again in Sunfood had a half a second pole, but in 2022 it was down to 200s, and in 2021 it was down to 300s. Okay, so that's how close it's going to be. It is one of the shortest circuits on the calendar, 4 point something kilometers, 72 odd laps that we're going to get. And I love those banked corners, because they just add a different level of challenge to these
Mhm.
drivers. The only banked corner otherwise that we all still remember is Indianapolis. Okay.
Yeah.
When we think of the old Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where they made modifications to run F1 cars, the banking here is actually twice that of the Indianapolis, right? And I think Jeddah has some banked corners, but it's not banked enough for us to, visually appreciate that. Oh, that's the banking everyone's talking of. And I still remember turn 3, Hugenholtz, Bocht, as we call it, or
Mhm.
my Dutch is bad, as it always, every year I say this. But turn 3, Fernando Alonso, if he is starting in a position, if he's starting out of
Yeah.
position, turn 3, Fernando Alonso, opening lap. He's my man to watch on the driver onboard camera. Definitely.
Dude, that corner is something else. They should just rename it the Speed Racer corner or something. So many different lines. The one on the inside, the one on the outside, the one on the extreme outside as well. I'm just curious to see, as you mentioned, Kunal, what happens at the start there. And also how the lines evolve. Now, this is something that I particularly want to pay more attention to. I saw this last year where at a certain point, a certain driver, again, I'm doing you guys a disservice by not remembering who it was, but it's too much digging to do for too little value, if that's the right thing. But I noticed that the drivers at one point of the racetrack were taking a certain line, and as the races evolved, they were taking the other one. And the lines were so dramatically different. I don't remember the circumstances, but one time they were going extremely above the white line, one time they were going a triangular sort of shape, one time they were taking just the inside. So, how do these lines evolve according to the conditions that present themselves over the weekend? That is something I will be tracking with more depth this time out. That'll be fun to see. And that's one thing you can only do at Zandvoort.
Yeah, exactly. Because multiple lines through a corner typically depends on how much fuel you're carrying, what stage of the race you're at. Are you attacking or defending someone? How old are your tires? How much of tire management you're doing as
Yep.
well? Because tire sensitivity is extremely high, like Sundaram pointed out, just because of the circuit and the way it's designed. Lots of high speed directional changes. I think the front left is what people normally need to take a lot of care of. I think 14 corners, so 4 to the left, 10 to the right, if that's what I remember. Also, sand can blow onto the circuit from the sand dune just nearby. So that could be an additional challenge as well for this race weekend. Pirelli are bringing their hardest compound of the tires out here. They've said it'll be a one stopper, which pretty much means that the teams will probably move into at least doing a two stop. But interestingly, last year, if we were to just look at the race last year, Alonso was on the podium with Pierre Gasly, so it was a surprise podium. We had a mixed weather race. Sunoda ran 50 laps on the soft tire, which is of course the C3 tire, which Sommel, as you pointed out earlier in the season, is the tire the McLaren really loves to excel on and use. And then last year also all 5 tire compounds were used in the race, which means the intermediate and the wet tires were put to use as well. Also, this circuit, because of the high speed directional changes, has a very high mass sensitivity index, which means that if you carry more
Mhm.
fuel, you just end up losing more lap time here, just given the nature of the circuit itself, right? Track position is vital, strategy is vital, because overtaking is very tough as well. So McLaren will be, of course, challenged. Firstly, Lando Norris, can he nail the start for once? Because he's had 5 races where he started from pole, 3 Grand Prix, 2 sprints. All of them, he's gone backwards on the opening lap itself. Andrea Stella, the engineering brain that he said, he's missed out on some statistical opportunities on the opening lap, because statistics would show that you are able to make better or higher progress on the opening lap than on the laps to follow. So that's one. And then McLaren needing to, of course, ace their strategy, because Zandvoort bites in every single way if you get it wrong, and there are 72 laps where you could just be stuck behind another car.
Statistical what? Are they bringing the concept of expected goals into Formula One? Like XG and how that works? Oh my goodness. But
No, but
that is such a.
no. What that means is, if you have to make up track position, there are statistically higher chances to make up more track position on the opening lap than on the laps to follow. So Andrea
No,
Stella is right, just that he put it in a very engineering sense.
I see what you mean, but football also has a similar index called the XG, which basically calculates the quality of your chances based on how often a goal can go from a certain point on the pitch. So if you're closer to the goal, you get a zero point 0.9 XG. The further away you go, it tends to get lower back. I'm just wondering, opening up a Pandora's box here, because we tend to do these things, can we have an XG or an expected pass metric for Formula One too, where you judge the quality of the pass based on statistically how tricky it was to do? By
Wow.
which logic we might end up seeing some crazy random pass that we might have forgotten get a zero point 0.9 xg or whatever it might be. I don't know.
Like Albon overtaking 2 cars in the wet in
Yeah,
Canada,
yeah, yeah,
for example. Yeah.
exactly. Or Sonoda being pushed off wide by Fernando. No, Alonso going off on the grass and still waving his finger to Sonoda and then getting past him. That would be like a 1.4 xg. That's no, no 0.1 actually, next to impossible.
Liberty
Yeah.
Media, we know you're listening. You have lots of graphics, lots of sensors, lots of data, striking distance, overtaking distance, pit stop
Mhm.
window, open, close, safety car window, open, close. Here's something we can learn from the world of Formula One, where there isn't much of data. We come from a world where everything there's data for.
But guys, let's also transition now to the midfield. So we need to talk about this one thing where our favorite, the man who we love the most, the man who always gives us incredible quality content to talk about, Flavio Briatore. I can't call him team principal, but he's an advisor to Alpine, if my reading is correct, Kunal, or what's the exact role?
He's a genius in Alpine, the only F1 genius in Alpine, as he says so. Yeah, but I mean, it's like this. He's not a titular head. I'm pretty sure of that. Like
Hmm.
most presidents of countries, I'm pretty sure he's calling the shots or he's influencing calling the shots. And of course, now he's got Oliver Oakes, who, if he has hired Oliver Oakes, then it makes it easier to call the shots and tell Oliver, you remember who hired you? Fire this guy, or hire. Actually, firing happens faster in Alpine than hiring, so you never know.
True. But
No,
what
but
Flavio?
we should
Go
give him
ahead.
credit for making at least one good decision, which was ousting Bruno Famine. Uh, Quite clearly was for what was a pretty horrible 1 year in charge. So at least in that sense, he's made at least one correct decision. And hiring probably who is the second youngest team principal in Formula One after Christian Horner is probably a step in the right direction. Maybe it gives them a little bit more stability, uh, fresh thinking, a fresh way of implementing procedures and processes. I'm all for seeing what Oliver Oaks can do with that team. And but yes, still not very happy with Flavio being in that team. I'll still say that.
But they need to give Oliver all the time, and let's hope that Oliver is also coming with the right energies and focus, because there's also this one side where High Tech Grand Prix had a very close relationship with the Mazepins. There's the second seat open. There's talk of Jack Doohan being announced at some point. There's talk of Flavio Briatore give Michael Schumacher the big world championship break. Could it be Mick Schumacher who comes in, because they've lost out on Carlos Sainz? But the worst could happen is if Flavio has joined, Oliver Oaks has come, and Nikita Mazepin gets a look in, just because the Oaks have been very close to them. And, or I would say a positive story out of this could be Paul Aaron, the F2 race winner, and I think he's second. He is second in the championship, but one of the most consistent Formula 2 drivers in his debut season. So lots of rights that Oliver Oaks and Flavio Briatore can do. Of course, we joke about Flavio, but he knows the business of F1, and he's come here to run the business of an F1 team.
Hey, no, but there is a valid reason to joke because Flavio Briatore went to the media and said that this. Wait, let me just fathom this mentally. I need to laugh first and get it out of my system so that I can deliver it positively to you guys. So here is what Flavio said, and I quote: "At the moment, you need to put the team together from the commercial side, the technical side, the management side. The driver makes no difference now. The difference will be in 26, 27, 28. This should be the difference for the driver. If you have a good car, you need a good driver. If the car is not performing, our point in this moment, make sure we put all the energy in the technical side and make sure that the car of Alpine is looking better and better. In 2026, I believe we see the new Alpine. That is when the driver will matter." Basically, he's completely put a whole load of bollocks on who the second driver is going to be, right? Like he's literally come out there and said, it doesn't matter who you are, the benchmark is very low. Figure it out and we'll see in 26. I love this comment. It's him basically saying it does not matter.
Could
Which
this
has
could this be that hint that it doesn't matter if I hire Nikita Mazepin for all
it
the money
doesn't
he
matter.
brings?
It doesn't matter at all. It's just we'll see in 26 now who the second driver is. It doesn't matter now. It's
Is this why Carlos Sainz said, no, you don't care who your second driver is? You don't think the driver makes a difference? Tata, bye bye.
No, if I'm not wrong, I think Gunther Steiner said the same thing back in 2020 or 2021 when he hired Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin, and they had a
oh.
terrible season. If I'm not wrong, they didn't score a single point that season.
Yeah.
Alpine are currently eighth in the championship. They're sitting 11th, and it's looking very difficult for them to go up to seventh. But they can lose out eighth to Williams, who are only 7 points behind. So Williams needs just one good or a couple of good weekends to kind of jump Alpine for eighth, and Alpine falls to ninth. If that's what Flavio Briatore means, that he doesn't want, it doesn't really matter who the second driver is. We're potentially looking at Alpine sitting at eighth, ninth, maybe even 10th next year. Seriously?
So you know what MILFs are, right, guys? You know the hot MILFs in your area. I love Flavio. That's what it stands for. I'm a MILF lover. Clearly, I love Flavio for these things. It's incredible.
Hmm.
Wow. Uh, do we talk about a team whose second driver matters?
Yeah,
We
let's
should.
go for it. They don't have a
How?
second
You
driver.
mean you mean Aston Martin, right? Okay.
By the way,
No.
I'm a little surprised. You asked Sundaram to pick a parking spot, and he didn't say Aston Martin for his bicycle, and he didn't say I will take the Fernando Alonso reserved spot, because Fernando Alonso is of course his birthday twin, but Sundaram clearly believes otherwise.
I believe in a lot of things, okay, but it never comes true. So I just try and keep quiet.
Okay, on to Mercedes. Do you think they're announcing Kimi Antonelli this weekend, or are they announcing him next
It's
weekend?
happening. It's happening before the Italian Grand Prix or after it, because it's actually going to be 25 years since the original Kimi was brought into Formula One as well. If you all remember the Eskimo story, does anyone remember that? That happened, if I'm not wrong, after the 2000 Italian Grand Prix. Around this time, initial September, there was a there was a private test happening around Mugello, and the Sauber team brought in a driver who was kept under wraps on purpose so that others don't snatch him. So they gave him the name Eskimo, and no one really knew who he was until later on they realized it was Kimi Raikkonen, who made his debut in Formula One the next year. So 25 years since Kimi landed on the scene, and it's possibly going to happen around that same time.
Similar fashion too. Fast tracked,
Hmm?
Kunal. Completely fast tracked.
Yeah, fast tracked, and I also think Mercedes will be very cheeky in choosing the Italian Grand Prix. Of course, Antonelli turns 18 this Sunday, so technically, he anyway had a dispensation from the FIA saying not he, but any driver showing capabilities could get an exception for a super license. But for Monza, and we leave this for Monza, I'll probably repeat it as well. Lewis Hamilton is going to be the most popular driver next weekend, even though he's racing for Mercedes. Okay. Tifosi will already want to celebrate a Hamilton. Okay. Yes, we raced in Imola. This is only the second race in Italy this season, etc. But Monza is where Ferrari is celebrated, and I think Lewis is going to be celebrated. Could Mercedes decide to dim those celebrations by announcing Lewis's replacement? But of course, it's also Andrea Kimi Antonelli's home race. He will be there for Formula 2 as well. So I think that's going to happen. That's the number two driver. That's probably what it's going to be like. I had a very strong feeling they were waiting up for Max. Max was waiting up for them, but I think that's probably not happening, at least for another year. I think Max is just going to stay because he's probably very sure of what Red Bull is doing to fix his car. There's a higher chance of his car being fixed here rather than him going and settling elsewhere. And he believes that if Red Bull makes that small step, it'll actually be a larger step than most teams combined, even though Adrian Newey and Jonathan Wheatley, etc., have gone. But you never know how this goes. Max just needs one strong reason to go, which is Mercedes's resurrection, and then everyone's going to just fall in line, decide. It's like Lewis Hamilton. If he said I'm ready to come to Ferrari, Ferrari found space for him. It's going to be the same for Max Verstappen. If Max Verstappen says I'm going to go and race at Mercedes, Mercedes will find space for him, and everybody else just falls in place around him.
And it's going to be goodbye to George Russell, then I say.
I mean, I see that's the tricky part, right? Like
In no
it's
way it's happening. In no way are they going to push out Kimi Antonelli and bring in Max Verstappen. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it's going to be George Russell. Unfortunately.
that's the kind of decision you get paid multi-million dollars a year for. and that's what gets you 33 and 1/3% stake in a team as well. And I honestly don't want to make that decision. I- I'm okay with whatever I have. That's too much mental stress, man. Seriously, it's wow. That's some circumstance that we could find ourselves in. And hey, also speaking of driver changes and all these things, remember Liam Lawson is in the wings, and this is the very race last year where we saw his talents for the first time in Formula One. So that's also a bit of a story that could loop around by itself.
The very race where he debuted in Formula One, and he passed a particular Max Verstappen as well, if you guys remember. He
Hmm.
overtook Max Verstappen. He actually unlapped himself momentarily and then fell back into place. But yes, that was, I would say that that was still a pass. But yes, it's going to be interesting to see where does he end up next year as well, and how do, in which direction do RB go as well in terms of their driver lineup for the next season. So it's going to be very interesting, I would say.
Hmm. Exciting.
So
Always.
then,
So
prediction
then,
times.
predictions.
What are we predicting?
Uh,
Sundaram's picked his, so he doesn't get a
yeah,
chance to go again.
For the race win? Yeah, I'm done.
I'm surprised, man. You guys haven't even thought
Sommel
about
is
Williams
picking.
anywhere.
He is
He's
picking
picking
Oscar
Piastri now.
Piastri.
He's
Haha,
he's moved away from science. He's moved away from science. He's now holding on to Piastri.
no, Alex Albon. I'm holding on to Alex Albon. I'm banking for Alex Albon to be in the top 10. That is my prediction. Again, you have to manifest
Not a
things,
bad
right?
one
So,
actually. Not a bad one.
Hmm.
got to manifest my way into at least getting Williams in the points now. So, that's. See, I'm already building up for next year. That's what teams do at this stage of the season, right? They already prepare for next year. So, Williams, it is going to be in the top 10.
I
That's my
know
prediction.
why you're hyping up Williams as well for next year. Okay, we all get it.
I think it's going to
Nah,
be a
but
McLaren 1-2. That's my
Hmm?
I.
feeling. It'll be
Ooh.
the 50th 1-2 in the history of Formula One.
In
But
which
it's
order?
going to be, I
See,
would say,
good one.
Piastri. I
Norris
would say
still fumbles the
PS3 and
start.
Norris. Yeah, I
Norris
don't know
fumbles
why
the
the
start.
fumble. It could well be PS3 just out qualifies him by that narrow margin and just keeps that margin up ahead.
Yeah.
I think McLaren is going to be there. He's the only driver to have completed every racing lap in 2024, 13 races in the
Including
points,
sprints. Including
including
sprints.
sprints. Yeah, and only driver to lead at least one lap in the last four Grand Prix, right? Because last four Grand Prix have been very weird, right? I think Lewis Hamilton, who's won two, but has led just 30 laps. I think 15 in Great Britain and 15 in Spa.
Yeah.
So just shows how competitive it's going to be. Just shows why predictions sound great on a Tuesday evening when we record. But by the time it's Sunday, we'll all be laughing on our faces like, ha 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 ha, what just happened there? And so on. But my just one thing about Zandvoort, since it's been around since 1940, the very fun fact is that, of course, this is a new layout which has mixes of what happened in 40s, 90s, and now in the 2020s since it's come back. But the old layout actually has become a golf course. Could we see some of the Formula One drivers go and just play some golf in the lead up to the race weekend? Because Lando Norris does that, Alexander Albon and his partner Carlos Sainz does that as well.
Yes.
So could
Wait,
golf be one
Alex
of?
Albon's partner Carlos Sainz very cheekily slipped in.
Okay, yes, that's what
Wait,
I
so
meant.
Williams are going to be the golf family next year, aren't they? Technically.
Yeah, the golf family, and the car's overweight,
Yeah.
as they keep saying, which is why they hired two drivers without an appendix. That's the joke as it goes. Maybe this is too old now.
Nicely done.
Yeah, but that's what I'm gonna. I think it's gonna be a very exciting race this weekend. Luckily, just Formula One. Usually it's Formula 3, 2, 1. Lots of energy that gets scattered, but here's just F1 that I'm gonna follow, which gives what do you say? Gives me more energy to go deeper into just one series rather than several other drivers and so on.
But wait,
Wait,
Kunal, you mentioned that McLaren are going to be having a 1-2. So
Mhm.
where do you think Max Verstappen's going to finish this weekend? Same
I think
question
he'll
goes
get
to
a
Somal as
podium.
well.
He'll get a podium.
Kunal's going with P3. Somal?
I'm going for the win for Max. I don't think you can challenge the king in his own home turf. No, man, not happening. Not happening.
Not
If
happening.
it's Verstappen in Belgium or Virat Kohli in Adelaide, you just don't bet against them, right? So it's might as well let the grades do their thing.
Here's a
Indeed.
trick question. Sorry,
Hmm.
here's a since we're talking of Verstappen, right? Which team has had most pole positions in the last 10 editions of the Dutch Grand Prix? Red Bull Racing, McLaren, Brabham, or Renault?
I would say
Renault.
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 Four. Of course, it's back in the 80s that was there.
And the
But we've not
turbo
even
eras
talked.
where
Yeah,
Renault
yeah,
had
yeah.
1000 horsepower in their engines, but they had to drop them for the race because, again, they only last one lap. What a generation that was.
But we've actually not spoken at all about Ferrari, right? Because Ferrari has gone from, we heard 25 years, the Eskimo story, he last raced for Ferrari. Ferrari's gone from having the Iceman racing for them to now having the ice cream wala racing for them, given that Charles Leclerc has started his ice cream brand in itself.
See? Like, what sort of ice cream does he
Yes.
sell now? I know
Lec,
we're.
his brand is called Lec, Lec. But yeah,
Uh, it's they went
How
for the low hanging
innovative.
fruit,
Hmm.
but that's a
Hmm.
good one. I
yeah.
I like that.
Couldn't have, yeah. Maybe F1 will take some royalty from the Lec brand. You never know.
1.6 euros a pop, maybe. Who
Because
knows?
16 euros is too much, right? You think?
Exactly. 1.6
But
could be good.
but in
That's
the last
reasonable.
12, yeah, in the last 12 races at Zandvoort, six have been won from pole position, seven have been won from the front row. But 10th place has actually won two times, as has fourth place. So it's a mixed up one. And I think the last six races at Zandvoort, it's either the first place or the 10th place that is won, nothing else in the middle. So lots of fun stats, fun history, fun facts from the weekend.
We should also predict who finishes second in this season. That's something I'm going to track and go back to 10 races later. So Lando Norris is currently second. Charles Leclerc's pretty close in third. Then we have Piastri, Sainz, Hamilton in that order. Russell's eighth. Who do you think finishes second at the end of the championship?
I don't even want to know
Norris?
Sawmills. Ah, yeah, okay. Yeah, I
Someone's
would
going
say
Piastri for this as well. Pretty sure.
No, no, no. Norris, Norris,
no,
Norris.
no, you
Safer
can't
route,
not
safer
choose
route.
PS3.
The points gap is a bit too much, is it not?
Okay.
From what I
32.
read,
32.
32. That's going to be hard to overcome. I mean, even though I do believe Piastri will evolve better, but 32 points is this a tough one to cut down, unless there's a DNF of some sort. So.
I would say Lando Norris is going to get there. But let's also extend this question. We know Max Verstappen is going to win. He's not going to have three DNFs, and Lando is going to win three races and suddenly change the whole picture of the drivers' championship. But by what margin will Max Verstappen win the drivers' championship? Because as the races go by and as the margin gets narrower, it also gets more and more nervous for the team and driver who are
True.
leading. Will it go down all the way to the wire? Because Max has won the drivers' championships 4 or 5 races before. I remember in Japan at 7 in the morning, and suddenly he's crowned victory. Everyone's confused. Has he actually won? 2022, if I remember. But
Yes.
maybe we should run this poll on social media. By what race will Max Verstappen win the drivers' championship? But more importantly, but by what margin? And why don't I start with you, Samal? What do you think his margin is going to be?
Uh, I think it's only going to be between 60, 70 points, what it is there currently. Because
It's
Wow.
even though
78.
he has been losing races, he's still been improving his championship lead, believe it or not. So I feel
That's
it's
true.
going to be thereabouts.
Yeah. Despite all of that, I think it was just Monaco and Hungary where he lost points to
Yeah.
Lando. Every other race he's been there or there, or he's not lost points. Yeah, that's a good point. So you think it's going to be even Stevens, even in the next 10 races, Max and his talent and whatever is going to pull things out, his efficiency of scoring strong results will hold him
Or
in good stead, even though McLaren and Lando
rather
could
the
be quicker.
volatility behind them. Uh, because I feel that, again, I could very well be wrong. I have no basis for this, but because there have been so many drivers winning races in the last 3, 4 rounds, it only benefits Max because he's not
Yeah.
fighting against one clear contender. He's fighting against five. So at any given point in time, all he has to do is beat Lando Norris, which he has been doing for a bit. So apart from a few races here and there, as you mentioned, only two where he didn't. So
What do you think, Sundaram?
Now, I was just looking at the points table as well. So he has a 100-point lead over Leclerc, who's P3. So the only person who he doesn't have a 100-point lead over is Lando Norris, and that's 78. So, like Somil said, he's not just competing against Norris, he's competing against 5 other drivers who are taking points away from Norris. So, I'm going to go a little bold and say it's going to be over 100 points.
oh, over
To Pito.
100.
A
Wow.
bit over 100. A bit over 100. And I think he will clinch it at Las Vegas.
This is commercial success.
He's
man.
going to
If
have the
you
best
were-
celebration ever.
Dude, I heard that the BCCI has an opening for the chief script officer. Are you interested? you seem to be doing a good job of writing the script so far. Mr.
I did it
Jay Shah
last year
will-
as well. I did it
Yeah.
last year as well. In July, I predicted that Verstappen is going to win it after the Qatar sprint, which happened in November. And he did.
On a
after the-
Saturday?
on a Saturday, yes. So here's my prediction. Late August, I'm saying it's going to happen in Las Vegas.
Well, if it has to, the conquest has to
Wait.
begin somewhere.
That doesn't add up. If he has a 100-point lead, it's supposed to happen 4 races before.
4 races before, yeah.
Yes, it doesn't add up. So it's supposed to be either Brazil or Las Vegas. Now I'm a little. No, I'm going Las
Okay.
Vegas. Screw the
Okay.
points. I'm going Las Vegas.
I think it's going to be to the second last race of the season. That's my reading, and it's going to
That
be
close?
about 30 points only or thereabouts. I think it's going to be that close. I think that's my reading, but let's see. But that's it from us, this folks. Somil Arora has run out of petrol on the last few laps, so he's had a DNF this race preview podcast. We will be back after the race and for our race preview, or rather race review, and there is of course the Monza preview as well. So maybe we'll club the two. Who knows? Because I know the other two boys are going to be at the racetrack, and I'd rather they have fun there than sit in front of a mic in a home studio recording a podcast episode. So thank you very much for tuning in. Let's see how this race weekend pans out. Thank you, Sundaram, and we'll see you after Zandvoort.